February is Black History Month, and you may be surprised to learn the rich history that lies right here in Western Massachusetts. Dr. Shabazz is a professor at UMass, and Wayne Faniff is from the Springfield Republican, and they're here to tell us about some influential figures from Western Massachusetts. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Now, Wayne, we want to talk about, obviously, we know it's Black History Month, and we know across the country that it's a great time to remember and reflect. But right here in Western Mass, there's amazing history that is right here in Springfield.
Absolutely. One of the early, what they call slave narratives, was written by William Greene in 1853. He had actually escaped from slavery in 1840, and his narrative is all about the terrible parts of what happened to him. And his mother was freed, but 3 months after he was born. So he was a 3-month-old baby, but considered a slave.
Still a slave, right?
But he finally escaped as he progressively got worse and worse masters, and he fled to this area along the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And he was finally brought up from Hartford into Springfield and met with Dr. Osgood, who was actually the preacher at Old First Church in Springfield. And that was 1840. He published this book in Springfield, a hardcover book on his narrative in 1853. And that was actually 13 years later. He'd been in Springfield for 13 years. By that time, he had a family, he had 4 children, and he stayed here a long, long time. He became friends with John Brown. Mm-hmm. And when the fugitive slave law became law and people from the South were allowed to come back and get escaped slaves, John Brown came back to this area and formed what he called the Springfield League of Gileadites, which was an armed group of African Americans who were going to fight for their freedom. And there was never a slave ever taken from Springfield in the whole history.
Well, John Brown's an amazing man, and now you're the curator of an exhibit that's at Springfield Museums, right. And I was actually able to go there last year and saw the desk where he used to hide the slaves in, and it's amazing what this man did and what he did for people who deserved to have that equality.
Yeah. Our new book on the history of African Americans is called Struggle for Freedom. Mm-hmm. There's a picture in the book right here that shows a meeting of the Gileadites with John Brown when he came up to get them going on it. And one interesting point for today is that this book was written in 1853, the same time another slave narrative was written called 12 Years a Slave, which of course everybody.
We know that movie now. Yes, of course. Right now, Dr. Shabazz, you are a professor at UMass, and now you're going to tell us about James Lindsay Smith, but you're actually going to portray him. You're going to speak in character as James Lindsay Smith. So I'm going to ask you, tell me about your history and your ties to Western Mass as a runaway slave.
Well, Sister Ashley, I sure appreciate you having me here. Miss LaWanna Hood and the people at Pamusa, a little dog named Peabody and a little boy named Hosea brought me back here through the Wayback Machine to kind of tell my story. I was born in Virginia. I was in slavery. I wasn't a slave, but I was in slavery, and it's a terrible thing. I'm glad y'all take some time to try to learn Black history and learn our American history to know how terrible slavery was. I was hurt as a child, hurt my knee, and they didn't give me any medical attention because they said, well, we have enough little Negroes around the plantation. We don't need to help this little child. So I ended up having a limp all my life. But I still was able to escape slavery. I got up to New York, and a man named Ruggles, David Ruggles, I think y'all got a museum for him too, he sent me on to Springfield to a Dr. Osgood that this gentleman just spoke on. And Dr. Osgood was such a good man in helping so many of us that fled slavery. And I'll tell you, I was able to go to Wilbraham Munson, get my education, learn to read, learn to write, and I wrote my own narrative. So I hope y'all will come to Pamusa and learn more about me and my story and Mr. Green's story and so many others that can help enrich your life to know these things.
Well, congratulations on all you've accomplished, James Lindsay Smith. Thank you for coming back to the present time to tell us all about that. It's wonderful, and I think it's so important that we do raise awareness and make sure that people realize, you know, what an important month this is. And now we're going to let you break character for one moment.
All
Dr.
right.
Shabazz, it's your birthday today.
It is my
So from
birthday.
everyone here, all of your friends, they brought you a birthday cake, so we want to wish you a happy
Red velvet
birthday.
cake. Thank you,
Thanks for
Ashley. Thank
sharing
you,
this
everyone.
day with us, and that was
Appreciate it.
wonderful. And Wayne, thank you as well. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to toss it over to Seth. We're going to speak more about Black History Month in the kitchen. Seth?
We are speaking about Black History Month in the kitchen. We're talking about some traditional Southern dishes. And joining me now are Garrison Pollard and Lily Morales from New Hope Diner. We're making hush puppies. We're making coleslaw. We're making a ton of good food. And I can see everybody. Ashley wants to come on over. So they'll come over in due time. But let's talk about what's on this plate first, because I see a coleslaw here. But there's more ingredients than our traditional northern coleslaw. What's in this?
Mayonnaise, sugar, and tropical fruit.
See, normally you don't see the tropical fruit. And then another thing that you have, another dish here, it looks like some sort of fish. How'd you cook this up?
Baked it.
Baked it,
One of
okay.
them. This one, the light one's baked.
The light one's baked, and this one seems like it's fried to me.
Yes.
And then some more southern treats we have over here. We have potatoes and green beans. Now, what I want to know, and Ashley, she wants to come in real bad. In fact, everybody come on in if you'd like.
Are those green beans or is that asparagus?
Oh, those are green
green
beans,
beans. Oh,
my
they're
friend.
green beans.
How do you
Wow.
make hush puppies? Because these are hush puppies, is that right?
Yes.
Now, how do you make them?
Well, you take this right here and just put water in it. That's the cheap way.
This is the cheating
That's
way.
my way.
This
That's
is how
the way
here
I
you go.
do
You
it.
can have
the
this one.
cheating way.
But if you want to make hush puppies from scratch, you use some of these ingredients that are right here.
Yes.
All right, so you mix them all together. Sounds good to me. And then lastly, we have dessert, because what meal wouldn't be complete without dessert? What's this over here?
It's a sweet potato turnover.
Sweet potato turnover.
Is it sweet?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's a silly question. I know some potatoes sweet. These are the
doesn't get out
questions I
much.
ask. I don't get out much.
She doesn't
but
get out.
does it taste like a dessert or does it taste
Yes,
savory?
it's actually a pie crust and sweet potato batter, which calls for butters, cinnamon.
Can I have a bite?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You start on
well
dessert
then.
first. I'm going to
See,
start on this plate, because
this
I've been
is
eyeing it
great.
this whole
We
time.
don't have to go down south to get this traditional Southern cooking, right? This is so fantastic.
Now, Garrison,
All right,
do you
how
want
do I
some
eat
too?
this?
Just
No,
break
do
a
it
piece
for me.
off.
We'll break a piece.
You want a little?
Yeah, that's the way I like
Too
to
early
eat.
for me.
Too early for lunch
Ooh.
for you. Thank you so much for
Too
sharing these
early.
traditional Southern recipes with us. It's never too early for me to eat something really tasty here on Mass Appeal. And ahead on the show,